Oh, so you can't pull a better one out of your ass. That's interesting.
Should be able to be pulled over for that and castrated.
Not like RoboCop, huh?
I mean, camouflage works in mysterious ways. Is what I meant to say.
You did not just say that. Hello and welcome to the Church of Awesome.
The church to end all churches.
I am the Archangel Michael. I will be conducting today. Presiding, we have Cardinal Imam Spencer, son of Hagar.
Peace be upon him.
Joining us today, we have the Demi-Pope Chris and Bill. Leading our discussion today is the Demi-Pope.
Before we get started, I would like to have some announcements read here. So, as many of you don't know, we have a website, thechurchofawesome.com.
You don't say.
We
Really?
do say, yes. Thechurchofawesome.com. Actually, it's just churchofawesome.com. And there you can read all sorts of stuff. We put some bonus material up there. There's some, excerpts of stuff that we don't publish here on the podcast that we call our naughty bits. So you can come and check out our naughty bits.
Enjoy our naughty bits.
Yes, stick them in your ear. And we also have some little bloggy posts that I do every once in a while talking about random topics that may or may not ever get covered on the podcast, just because I like a venue in which to rant. And you can also comment on any of the podcast episodes, blogs, or the naughty bits. And comment on our naughty bits.
Talk about our naughty bits.
Please talk about our naughty bits. And you can also send emails in. We actually got our first email.
That effect.
Really?
Yes.
Was it good?
I mean, we've got lots of people that listen to us all the time and send us tons of email.
I mean, we get
So much so that we don't even have time to read it.
It's hard to comb through it all, yeah.
Yeah, so if you'd like to send an email into the show, email me at demipopechris@gmail.com.
Don't forget, you can also follow us on Twitter
Oh, yeah, that's right. We have a Twitter.
at COA Podcast.
Yeah. At COAP Oddcast.
You weren't going to read the email?
Oh, yeah, the email was just, I don't have it with me. It was just some guy who was saying that he listens to our podcast while he works in a funeral home or something like that.
Yay.
Yeah, he said he enjoys listening to it while he's burying Christians, and I said, well, keep up the good work burying Christians.
Not that we want people to kill Christians.
No, we just want them to be buried.
Yeah.
We just delight in the deaths of people who disagree with us.
That's awful. Awfully fun.
Yeah. So, thank you, whoever you were, whatever your name was, for emailing.
Name has been redacted to secure the innocence of the person involved.
All right, today's topic is epistemology.
And what is epistemology, you say?
That's the study of insects. That's
What?
entomology. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. No, epistemology.
That's endocrinology.
Yeah, yeah.
Ridiculous.
So, epistemology is trying to answer the question, what is knowledge? So, a lot of times Christians will say, I know this is blah, blah, blah. I know blah, blah, blah. I know.
Making
blah, blah.
bullshit knowledge claims on opinions.
Or just saying, you would know this stuff if you prayed or something. Well, it's like, okay, what are the mechanisms through which knowledge is attained? How do we know what we know? That kind of thing. It's just trying to answer that question.
Yeah, and that's kind of a question that's always, I guess, annoyed me a little bit because, I mean, when you have facts, because I'm such a black and white person, it's like we know, half.
Top half black.
No, I'm like Mariah Carey. Anyway, in so many ways.
Yes.
It's when people say, like, truth can't be known. We can't know. It's like, okay, there are certain facts that can be verified. Like, to me, it's probably my two-dimensional way of thinking of the world around me, but it's like, we can know certain things, and some things can't be known, but also, like, facts are facts, and there's no reason
Well, I think
to...
this will be a good episode for you because this is thinking about how, like what are facts? What is knowledge? How do we know? To what degree of confidence do we know?
I get to learn things.
Yes.
Yay. I get to work in the third dimension. Or have I just not been thinking fourth dimensionally?
You haven't been thinking fourth dimensionally. I keep telling you this.
Yeah.
So we'll start with beliefs. What do you think of belief?
Belief is an idea that's held in your head that does not necessarily have proof, but you live by it. How was that? How was that out of my ass definition?
It smells kind of assy. So,
I made it specially for you.
Yes. What have you been eating?
Black beans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly ideas.
Yeah. So beliefs. I don't really have a definition for beliefs because belief is just something you kind of.
Oh, so you can't pull a better one out of your ass. That's interesting.
So it's just something that someone holds to be true or predictive, something that has some predictive power that you're like, well, this, if this, then that. So that's kind of what I think of a belief.
I mean, if you believe like that the Earth is composed of Oreo cookies, that doesn't really have predictive power.
Well, sure it does. You would think that if you dug to the center, you would get a cream filling.
Exactly.
Huh. Oh, look at me being all
That you could
wrong.
eat it. That you could eat a rock and it would be delicious. Yeah, and there's overarching belief structures that someone's like, I believe in blah blah blah. Like when someone says I believe in something, then they're usually talking about a structure of beliefs that are internally consistent, but that you could pick one apart and that it would have this predictive power. But as a big overarching structure, it's more of a frame of reference that they're talking about. Beliefs are sometimes divided into core beliefs, things that are actively thought about, and it's not just things that I hold dear to my heart kind of thing. It's just core beliefs are things that you've thought about and that you've analyzed.
Like primary directives. Like
What?
RoboCop.
Oh, okay.
You and RoboCop.
You and
what the
RoboCop.
fuck?
Main operating guidelines and or principles.
No, it's not even that.
No?
It's just things that
Not like RoboCop, huh?
beliefs that you actively hold, as opposed to like a passively held belief.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone asks you something and you just like, well, I haven't thought about it, but I guess this. Like,
Oh, okay.
and then that would be a dispositional belief, as opposed to a core belief. So it's things that you've thought about versus things that you haven't really thought about, or actively believing or passively believing.
It's kind of like, my church believes this is true, so I guess I do, but I haven't really put much thought into it.
Yeah, or if you kind of extrapolate some people's beliefs, and you're like, well, if you believe this, then consequently you would believe this.
Right, if the Earth is made of Oreo cookies, then you believe that the Earth is edible.
Yeah, that you could eat a rock.
Yes.
And they would be like, well, no, I don't believe that. And there's usually a dividing line. And that's kind of one of the ways that you can go about debating, is that you talk about the beliefs that you have and the beliefs that they have. And you go and you find where your beliefs are similar and you find where they're different. And you confront the other person with beliefs that they have that they may have not thought of. If asked, do you believe tigers wear pink pajamas? A person might answer that they do not, despite the fact that they may have never thought about this before.
It's like, of course they do, right?
What other color would they wear?
Yeah.
They're not going to wear orange pajamas. That's just silly.
No, camouflage so they can still stalk their prey.
Like the army green camouflage. That'd be really helpful for a tiger.
That'd be awesome.
When you get that blue and black camouflage. By the way, when the hell does that ever come in handy? The blue and black camouflage?
At night?
At night? Yeah,
At night.
at night? All right. Well, fine then. And just answer my question. Don't leave a mystery. Just answer my question outright.
I mean, camouflage works in mysterious ways. That's what I meant to say.
See, now I understand what you're saying.
So beliefs are often acquired from others. That we don't have time to test all of these things. If someone says that the Earth is made of Oreo cookies, they may go like, "Okay, I'll just hold on to that
Sounds
for a while."
good to me.
Yeah.
Until that question is challenged in the future, I'll just sort of hold on to that.
Exactly. That sometimes we have these, like, especially a lot of our passive beliefs, our dispositional beliefs. It's just like, okay, this seems to be I can operate under this assumption for now.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the religious people are like, I think there's a God, I don't really know, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just gonna not be a jerk, and God will make it all good in the end because there's justice and shit later.
Mm-hmm. And that, that can work very well for a lot of people. That's not the thing that we're, raging against most of the time. There's people that have like a passive belief in that, I believe in kind of everything will end up all right and that there's someone in charge.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's a good or beneficial belief.
Well,
that
it's
could be up
not
for
a
debate.
beneficial belief, and also the only people who hold those kind of beliefs are the ones that don't understand like what stakes are involved. Like they don't understand that there's actual consequences, like if there is a God or if there is a judgment later, and even the smallest sin will fuck you over hardcore forever.
Well, they may not believe in that God.
True, but I mean,
They could believe in a God that's a little bit more nuanced than that. It's like, he's going to work everything out. Everyone's going to be rewarded exactly according to
the big accountant in the sky. He's going to make sure all the books balance and we're good. Yeah. And
that's just a way of kind of putting your mind at rest from a lot of things that can cause you stress, something like that.
Yeah. When you read a sad news story, well, it's okay. God will cook the books to make it look good or whatever.
It's not even that. I'm sure they feel some sort of, pain, empathy for the person who was harmed.
Right. But I meant like to quell the internal crises,
Yeah. And it's, there could be people who have very different beliefs. There could be this person that believes in this kind of God that just is the big accountant in the sky. There could be another person that believes in none of it, who's completely atheistic, and they could go about their lives behaving the exact same way, because you'll only arrive at that when it's challenged. When you like, hey, do you believe in God? When you make people think about it actively, then they can go like, oh yes, I do, or oh no, I don't, or they can go, oh yeah, kind of. Yeah. There are a lot of assumptions that we make when we're young based on the behaviors of others. So we'll observe the behavior of other people, and people will behave kind of in accordance with their beliefs. And so we observe the behavior, adopt the beliefs, just because that's what we observe.
Does that explain why sometimes people who are abused as children end up being abusers themselves? Is that like during your formative years you get constructed that way?
It'd be great if we had an answer to that. As to why that's the we observe that very overwhelmingly that's the case, that people that are abused become abusers. Is it simply learned behavior that's the way they grew up, and so then because most people parenting styles tend to stay consistent generation to generation. A lot of things we pretty much copycat our parents in a lot of ways for the most part. And that could be it. It could be, that trauma causes some kind of,
Or it could be a genetic component, maybe.
It could be a genetic component, yeah.
But I mean, that explains like traditions, certainly. Yeah, and like what you said about parenting styles tend to be the same generation to generation, even though most of the time we say, I don't want to become like my parents, and then you become exactly like your parents.
Or the polar opposite, which tends to have the same effect.
Yeah, you go too far in the other direction, you end up at the same place. Yeah.
Uh-huh. So what you're saying is abuse works in mysterious ways.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that a lot of these passive beliefs are easily picked up. We're observing a lot more than we think we are, and so we pick up these beliefs just by being around people with those beliefs. They're contagious.
Yeah, superstition is contagious, apparently.
Mm-hmm. One of the definitions of knowledge is that knowledge is a justified, true belief. So in order to know that a given proposition is true, one must not only believe the relevant true position, but also have a good reason for believing so.
Well, one of the definitions of truth that I remember from my church-going days is
whatever God says. Yeah.
No, no, better. It's things as they are, were, and ever shall be. Basically,
and as they may appear to be, or something.
Right, things as they truly are, which is funny because you're using the word true to describe the word truth.
Yeah. It's like, what's the definition of truth? Oh, it's, when something's true.
It's a truthy concept. It's truth-ish.
It's just the overwhelming truthiness.
Exactly.
So one implication of this would be that no one would gain knowledge just by believing something that happened to be true. For example, if an ill person with no medical training but with a generally optimistic attitude might believe that he'll recover from his illness quickly, and that's just a lucky guess. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, even if this belief turned out to be true, the patient would not have known that he would get well, since his belief lacked justification. And he had no justification for the belief. He was right, but for the wrong reasons. That he was just optimistic.
Sure.
He just didn't want to die. There's a theory called reliabilism that states that a true belief only counts as knowledge if it's produced by a reliable belief-forming process. So,
like a double-blinded experiment.
Yeah, that's one form of reliabilism that you have to. That's kind of where we're at. We say, hey, we have a reliable way of forming beliefs, and that method is science. That you can go through science, the scientific method, and you can create these beliefs that have a very high accuracy, generally speaking. A lot of people will say like, oh, anecdotal evidence, but we've been studying these things for a long time, and we can see the flaws in our own perception, in our own ways of forming beliefs, and we know those to be not reliable. There's this whole thing about like the I think therefore I am thing, meaning that the only thing that I could know for sure is my own existence, because everything we could live in the Matrix, and we could explain everything using a completely.
Yeah, I know that I am, but I can't be even positive of what state of being I am in. Yeah, that's another thing that really annoys me.
Yeah, well, it's just this could all be just a puppet show just for our amusement. They sometimes call that the brain in a box situation, where it's like we could just be a brain in a box somewhere that's being sent all of this stimuli. That could all be just a simulation, just to see how this brain will react.
Yeah, I think the idea of not being able to know things is probably annoying to me because of a feeling of control. Like, I'd like to pretend that I've got control over my destiny and my faculties, and that may just be a pride thing, but it just sounds like, oh, we can't really know anything. I'm like, shut the hell up. I know the sky is blue and this and this. And
well, it's the whole like, well, all knowledge is relative, and it's like,
and usually I only hear idiots say things like that.
That tends to be just a fancy way of saying I give up,
Yeah.
It's like, whatever, everything's the same. Like, all knowledge is just opinion and stuff like that. And to some degree, that can be true. But there's a certain practical level upon which we have to operate.
Yeah, you can take that attitude and make it useful.
Yeah.
Or you can just,
Yeah, that's part of the Tim Minchin's Storm beat poem, where it's like, well, is knowledge so relative that when you're deciding to leave your apartment, do you go through the door or through the window on the second floor? Yeah. Is knowledge so relative? And that's kind of the externalism versus internalism. Internalism states that knowledge can only reside in the mind of an individual. So that's the brain in the box thing. The statement, I do not exist, is obviously a paradox, because
you have to exist in order to make a statement.
Yeah, it has to be posited by something. That's where the I think therefore I am thing came from. The Descartes thing, I believe. Reality is perceived entirely through the senses, all of which are flawed and can be tricked.
Yes.
So, everything must be doubted if it's obtained by the senses. So that's kind of where if people are, that's one of the main things of skepticism, that if you see, people are making claims, they're bringing forth their evidence. It's like, oh, I saw a ghost. It's like, well, or your vision tricked you.
Yeah.
As it is, anybody who's looked at, illusions, magic eyes, all sorts of things. There's all sorts of ways that our vision can be tricked.
Binocular cues, just all kinds of crap.
And just all sorts of not paying attention to certain things, paying more attention to other things, seeing things, seeing patterns and static.
Coming to conclusions off of ambiguous data.
Exactly. There's all sorts of ways that, and that's not just vision, but all of our senses. There's auditory hallucinations.
Yes.
One thing to keep in mind about perception is that our brain is bringing in all of this data from all these different senses. And it's not just looking at the raw data. It's creating a model of the world in our mind to make sense out of all this data that's coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these tricks that you can fool your mind, you can fool your eyes, you can fool your ears. You can do all these tricks because your brain's trying to make sense out of it. And some things don't make sense.
If something doesn't fit in the model, then it'll kind of scoot it into the model.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
Also, aren't our brains kind of wired for a better safe than sorry survival mechanism, where like we hear something and it could be a predator, and maybe 9 times out of 10 it's not a predator, but we freak out and run away anyway? Or
exactly. Yeah. If you're alone in a dark wood and you hear noises, those are going to make you afraid. You're going to be very prone to seeing shapes, seing agencies out to get you.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have lasted as long as we did.
Well, it's just, that's just survival instinct. We are skittish creatures because we don't have any real natural defenses. Our natural defense is get the fuck out of there.
Right.
Throw a rock at it. That's our natural defense.
Yeah, is to reason with it.
Yeah.
With the bear.
Listen, Tiger, I know you want to eat me, but just hear me out first.
It's not in your best interest, I promise you. Plus, if you eat me, then I won't be able to show you where the pajamas are.
And then where will we all be?
Then you won't be properly camouflaged and you'll die.
So you can see how it's in both of our best interests.
Now sit back and relax while we commune with the spirits. Today I am communing with the spirit of V8 juice because I'm on call for work again. I enjoy V8 again. And
You're always on call for work. You need a new job that lets you drink more.
It's a small price to pay for having like the coolest job ever. But yes, 100% vegetable juice.
So you're a race car driver?
That's not the coolest job.
Okay, you're a
Mikey was a race driver.
fighter pilot.
Drove so goddamn fast. Never did
You
win.
are a Navy SEAL.
No, yeah, right. What I do is so much cooler than all of those things.
A
But I'm
firefighter. You are a male
Ghostbuster?
porn star.
Anyway, why would that be gross? Anyway, I like V8 quite a bit because it's a very easy way to get vegetables and it takes no effort at all. And I actually like the taste. I grew up on it, and maybe that's why, but I really dig it.
All right, I'm drinking Glenmorangie original, the original, perfected by the 16 Men of Tane, 10-year-old Scotch whiskey.
So who are the 16 Men of Tane?
Yeah. Really?
They are in order.
Yeah, it sounds like you said 16 Men of Taint. I'm like, what'd you say?
It's like, it has an odd smell, but...
Anyway, this is famously known
It's between the Highlands and the Lowlands.
the taint of Scotland.
Yes.
It's right there at Edinburgh. Anyway, this is famously known as the best-selling single malt Scotch whiskey in Scotland. It's a bit young tasting for me. It's
Tastes too much like babies.
I don't know where to go with that.
Which, as you know, as atheists, we eat babies.
Yes.
This has been
We
firmly
drink pee. We're
established.
French, yes. No, I've had the 18 year of this, which is just killer. This is still quite good though. A little spicier, less wood, less cherry than the 18, but it's good and cheap and tasty.
Mm-hmm. And I'm drinking that very same thing, but previously I was drinking Glenfarclas 10, which we're just about to kill the bottle off, probably before this podcast is over. We've reviewed it before. It's very rich. It's got a lot of flavors in there.
That's the one that tastes like turkey pot pie and figgy pudding.
Yeah, you're drinking dinner, basically.
Oh, the one where you turn into a blueberry?
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, real good. Single Highland malt Scotch whiskey, 10 years old. I highly recommend it.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Let's return to the world of sobriety, but not really.
So here's another interesting thing about epistemology. We justify beliefs based on other beliefs. That's what the whole, framework of logic is. We say, we have a proposition A, and we say like, if A, then B, if B, then C, as either, that you can make kind of these chains of logic. The problem is that you kind of create an infinite regress by saying, hey, to justify one belief, we must appear to a further justified belief. So how far back do we have to go?
Are you talking about like the wise man building his house on a rock and the foolish man building it on
No,
sand?
I'm really more talking about kids going, why? Like if you're trying to explain something and the kid keeps on saying why, you have to go back a step and back a step. Like, well, why this? Well, because of this. Well, why this? Because of this. We have to keep going back until you get to something that you won't know. And I mean, again, that's part of science, that you're always trying to get one question back, but every time you answer a question, another question behind it.
It's like the the Earth is standing on the back of the turtle. Oh, what's the turtle standing on? Oh, another
turtle. Yeah.
No, you don't understand. It's
Turtles all the way down. So we must either accept that there can be an infinite regress, or that there is a bottom. There is a bottom turtle, as it were. That there are some epistemologically basic beliefs that are self-justified, that are self-evident, that don't need to be justified based on any other belief. Both of those are horrible propositions, because either we go back for forever and there's no answer, or that there's an answer that it just stops at. So it's
so either you will never know, or you will have to base everything on something that may or may not be the case. So yes, both are troublesome.
So if there are foundational beliefs, this is called foundationalism. There's a fundamental belief upon which everything is based. And that's what a lot of Christian sects think of. It's like, yes, there are these foundational beliefs of God and Jesus and Holy Ghost, and we build everything upon those things.
Which is hilarious, because when you stop believing in God, the whole house of cards falls down.
Yeah.
Well, it's just whether or not, like, let's say, for example, that this chain of justified beliefs extends beyond the horizon. Does it matter to you if it's beyond the horizon, if it stops or if it keeps going? It's to you still see the same amount of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's how much do you care that there is
turtles
more or not?
As far as you can see.
Exactly.
Whether there's a bottom turtle or not, it becomes irrelevant.
It's not necessary for your salvation, right? Is that where you're going with this?
Yes.
No, I'm just saying that it doesn't affect your day-to-day life. Because you say, like,
how many turtles affect your day-to-day life? Oh, I love that out of context. Look, I just have 4 that affect my daily life. They were the Ninja Turtles. That's all I need.
Or rocket turtles that shoot out little glowing red balls in Sonic 2.
Yes.
Oh, like, what the fuck were you talking about?
With frogs riding on the back of them.
Yeah. In the sky.
Yeah. Rocket turtles.
Or the ones with wings that bounce around in Mario.
Yes.
What other turtles? Dragon turtles. Holy shit. Dragon turtles are awesome. Like you get in China.
What are dragon turtles? Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. For some reason, a dragon inside of a turtle shell. I don't know what advantage that would have. You have no wings.
Protection.
I wonder if they still breathe fire. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
Another approach to this, other than foundationalism, which is just the foundational beliefs upon which everything is built, you can say that the coherence of the structure itself is what provides its own strength. That we can say, since we create this large structure of beliefs justifying other beliefs, that this big structure is its own evidence. Now, this does have some strengths. Like, this is kind of what we're basing science upon. You say, like, hey, everything that we observe fits together in this way. So the more things that we fit together in this way, building a good picture of the world,
the stronger the model
becomes. The problem with that is that you can make completely coherent false things. Like, you can make, like, the Star Wars universe or the Lord of the Rings universe.
Yeah, elaborate nonsense.
Yeah, they're very elaborate, structures of stuff that's just made up. That so none of it's true, but it's all coherent.
Yeah. Yeah, complex does not
or the
mean
Bible.
accurate.
Yeah, and that's
that it lacks the internal consistency.
Yeah. And that's what, I mean, Christianity will argue that as well, that, that it's a whole system of truth, that the system stands up by itself, therefore it must be, it must be strong or true.
Yeah, it's funny, that reminds me of like how I assess the strength of an episode of a show. It's one of the things is in-universe continuity. If there is a massive plot hole that makes it so, like, wait, the character is acting completely illogically within his established character framework, and you can't travel in time in that way in that universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what that
Yeah, that's why you have to have things like retroactive continuity.
Yeah, so they call it retcon. And,
got to retcon it.
Yeah.
Here's one that I really like. Christianity has argued that it is a whole system of truth, and the system is the only system that will stand up to all of the questions that are presented to us as we face the reality of existence. So theories or assertions from outside this system, evolution, for example, can be dismissed as the product of mistaken premises.
Okay. God, where do I even start with that?
So I must attribute this quote to the asshole that said it, Francis Schaeffer.
Who's that idiot?
He's the idiot that said that thing.
Is he related to Paul Schaefer? CBS Orchestra? No.
But I just thought that was brilliantly stupid.
Oh yes, it's like yeah, as if Christianity
There's
is
one
based
giant assumption in there that first of all that Christianity is in itself
consistent
and has an answer to every question that can be brought to it.
on. Well,
And secondly, that because of that everything else has no answer that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
their entire system is based on a case of special pleading.
but you can
There's
see
this
how
God.
like this view, if you kind of take yourself out of how stupid it is, and
Really
try and
asking a lot of us.
see the world from that perspective, then you kind of understand why people say it's like, oh, it will all make sense. You're like, right now, there's stuff like evolution that really, really appears to be true because there's just,
Because
all
it is.
sorts of things that are internally consistent and that are just, massive evidence in favor of it.
Yeah,
But-
why do you have to get a flu shot every year?
But they just said like, okay, so there's a mistaken premise somewhere there, and that there is an alternate explanation using Christianity. We just haven't gotten to it yet.
It sounds like moving the goalpost. It's that same. The answers will come later. Like, okay, but
No, it's not even moving the goalpost. It's removing the goalpost because they say like there's no. He's like, no, this is the answer. We've got the answer. We've gotten it through a different method. So there's nothing that can come from the outside to change our minds. That we know a priori that this stuff is true. Everything else that appears to be true will later on, like we were saying before, all of our senses can be deceived.
But this one ridiculous story, that's right.
Yeah, but our sense of spirituality cannot be deceived, apparently.
yeah, and you have the problem with that particular idiotic statement is it's like, okay, I can, even if I accept that well-established science could be wrong, I can be mistaken, I'm humble enough to admit that does not mean that his assumptions are correct.
Yeah, exactly. There's a slew of these logical fallacies that they'll use. And logical fallacies are kind of a breakdown of that structure where you're saying that you're using justified beliefs in circumventing the way that logic works to attempt to justify a belief that is not justified by those premises.
Yeah.
It's actually the in-group, out-group mentality, isn't it?
Well, that's part of it too. But we've created two completely independent structures of the scientific community and the scientific model of the world, and the religious.
The Jesus did it model.
Yeah, the problem is that you don't even get people to agree on what that model is, because even within any religion, and then within any subset of that religion, and then within any congregation, you won't find consistency in those things. So their argument from coherentism is completely off base because it's only coherent within one individual.
Yeah.
Can you have coherence without objectivity? It sounds like you can't because the people in churches aren't looking at anything objectively. It's all
Well, you can
their
because,
interpretations of stuff. And
again,
subjective.
objectivity is subjective, unfortunately. Because,
You did not just say that.
yeah, that's actually a Woody Allen line, but I just love it so much. There can be no certain objectivity because the only truth that we can know for sure is our own existence. Mm-hmm. There's people that are called solipsists. And
What?
solipsist,
the
which
fuck
just
is
means that since you cannot be sure about anything in the world around you, because anything can be just trickery, illusions of all different kinds.
Firing of synapses in your brain.
So that they basically are sticking to that position that nothing exists but me. Since I can't prove that anything exists, so I'm gonna operate under the assumption that only I exist. Which is just like,
Makes it tough when you want to go get a job or something. Like that.
yeah, it's just like which is great until you try and until you try and do anything, So there is a certain amount of uncertainty that we have to accept in our world because we're either basing it on an infinite regress, which isn't good,
Which is a bunch of turtles, yeah.
yeah, or against foundational beliefs that are, self-evident.
Yeah, that we hope we built on a rock and not on sand.
Yeah, that are just some assumption that we make that we just have to accept are true without any justification. So they're both weak positions, but they're the only two that we have.
And one of them is, actually, I was going to say, one of them is stronger, but...
no, neither of them are stronger.
Really.
Yeah. They're both horribly flawed, and we have to live in a world of uncertainty because we are imperfect observers of the world as it is.
Yeah, and it seems to be, because we know ourselves, and the way our bodies function and stuff, moderately well. To assume that we have evolved to a point where we can understand everything is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we kind of have to accept our small place in the universe. The more we study, we see, how small we really are. We look bigger and bigger up at the universe, and we look smaller and smaller at the, at microbes and atoms and stuff like that. And you're like, well, it's all just a matter of scale. The microbes wouldn't have an adequate philosophy to describe us either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, this whole black and white world that you live in, it really is an illusion because it's the same black and white world that a lot of Christian apologists live in, where they say these are the foundational beliefs. This is the big structure that I've created on top of those. Anything from outside of that is obviously wrong, even if I can't explain why. It just is because it doesn't fit into this framework. No matter what your framework is, we need to be constantly looking for weaknesses in that logical framework. We need to be probing it from all angles to make sure that the logic is sound at every link in the chain and that the premises are true. That's what we do. That's how we are investigating this world that we live in.
All right. And scene. Now get ready to rage with our fatwas of the week. I love that. This week I will be declaring fatwas on fatwas themselves. I'm always in such a good, jolly mood, and then I have to think about things every single week that make me mad, and it just ruins my mood. It makes me a sad shell of a man who's constantly crying on the inside. Fuck you, fatwas.
Oh, you're always that way anyway.
He's just looking for an excuse.
Because you haven't found Jesus.
I need a name. I need a name for my pain.
Yeah, you angry atheist.
All right, I'm going to declare jihad on old video games that didn't allow you to save the game. So fortunately, when you download vintage video games on modern gaming consoles, they allow you to do this. But playing through some of the old Sonic games, which I am a huge fan because they were awesome, and just remembering what it was like when you couldn't save your progress. It's like your mom would call you to dinner. You'd have to put the game on pause on your Genesis, run upstairs, mow your food as fast as you can so you could get back before the whole system would freeze on you. Because then you have to start all over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this work for nothing.
Annoying.
Yeah, that's something younger kids today are not going to understand.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well,
that and not unlimited lives. Like the idea of when you run out of guys, you're game over. You got to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Or like, I gotta leave for school in 15 minutes. Oh, I can so get to this one level, and like we gotta brush your teeth, and you just end up just like chewing on your toothbrush while playing the game. Like I'm brushing my teeth, Mom. Come on, I gotta get this guy.
Yeah, it is weird. And video games back then just seems like were more difficult.
They were. Well, it was
now.
A lot of it. There's the phrase Nintendo hard, which refers to the fact that games used to be a hell of a lot more hard. And the reason for this, if you think about it, computing power was a lot smaller, memory available was a lot smaller, and so your games were a lot smaller. And so in order to make them more than a 20-minute playthrough, they had to make them really hard.
Yeah, that when you get to a certain point, you go start at the beginning, you automatically get 15 more minutes of gameplay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I never thought about it that way. I kind of always just sort of assumed that because we're celebrating mediocrity more and more these days among kids, like, you graduated from 7th grade, as if that really means anything. If you make the games easier, well, look at how cool you are. You're so clever. You beat the game.
Achievement unlocked.
Part of it, in the U.S., they are easier than especially in Asia. Most games in Japan and Korea and stuff are brutally hard. They take just hours and hours and hours and hours, and they're more based on grinding and just kind of doing the same repetitive task over and over again, instead of American games where it's like it's all about the playthrough. You know, it's this is a good 4-hour playthrough, and that's like a good game in America, where it's just you're gonna get through it, everybody's gonna beat it. You know, there's no sense of accomplishment about beating it. It's just about the experience of playing through the game. It's almost more like you're playing a slightly active part in a movie.
Yeah, that's interesting that you make that comparison, because like video games are kind of becoming movies, because movies have sunk so far in
they
quality.
suck so bad. I mean, Heavy Rain is a better movie than any movie that's come out in the last decade.
I don't know what Heavy Rain is. That a game?
Yeah, you should play it.
Well, and the fact that movies are so much CG now. That
They are. So,
the
the line
graphics
is
are about the same.
Yeah, the line is blurring so much. Because you have movies that are so dependent on special effects, and you have the video games trying to become more and more realistic. Like if you see like the new Harry Potter video game, the guy looks exactly like Daniel Radcliffe, the Harry Potter character. It's impressive, but also like you see trailers and billboards for video games. Like to me, that boggles my mind. Like,
and they look like movie billboards.
Sometimes yes, and like. Wow, have we gotten to that point? That's so weird. But yeah, I mean, we have just so many sources of entertainment now. I guess it's all just blurring.
Yeah. But you were talking about celebrating mediocrity. Those Xbox achievements. That is exactly that.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
There's like achievement unlocked. You did this stupid thing.
You beat the first level of the game.
Yeah, it's like achievement unlocked. You did this. Like, yeah, it's for just things that aren't achievements, and they say achievement. Yeah.
It's like beating level 1 is kind of part of playing the game.
Yeah.
You need a little sprite on the screen to tell you here's a trophy for
the reward should be you get to play level 2 now.
That's what I sort of assume.
It's just part of the progression. You don't need achievements for this. But it's one of those stupid things of the gamer score, and you unlock achievements, you get gamer points, and you can brag about it to all your friends of how many gamer points you have, and it's just stupid.
Do you get anything for gamer points other than bragging rights?
Nothing.
Yeah, there's actually a friend of mine who has, like, I guess automatically every week it posts on his Facebook status top 3 rock band performances of the week. Like, what the hell is this? Like, do I really need to know that
somebody needs to buy him a real guitar?
Yeah. That's a fatwa for another day, Thomas.
What the fuck?
All right, my fatwa, I'm declaring jihad on headlights that are too bright. I hate it when I'm driving along on the freeway at night, and all of a sudden, in my rearview mirror, it's the surface of the sun, and I can see just pure white, and my corneas have been burned out.
Now, are these the regular headlights or the brights?
They're non-brights. They're just a different kind of. I think they're xenon lights that just put out this really like blue light that it's almost like staring right into an LED. Those blue LEDs that are really like a piercing bright.
Yeah.
So I'm blinded. I can't see anything behind me. Now I can't see anything in front of me either. They're a fucking road hazard.
They are,
and they should be outlawed.
So I've always thought they should have a city mode for headlights, because let's assume for a moment you're driving down some windy mountain road in the middle of nowhere where it's pitch black, there are no street lights. Bright ass headlights make a lot of sense.
Yeah, well that's what brights are for.
When you're driving through Los Angeles, downtown, down the 101, when the freeway isn't closed to blow up a bridge, there's so much ambient light from the city. There are street lights all the way along the freeway. The only reason you need your headlights on are so that other cars can see you a little bit better. They should have like this super dim mode where it's like, basically the brightness of like your tail lights, so that people just know, hey, you're there, but I'm not going to blind the fuck out of you. But no, they keep advertising these brighter and brighter headlights, and it's like, why? We don't fucking need them.
Yeah, I don't need lasers on my cars. I just need to be able to see where I'm going. Yeah, so you can actually measure, like, okay, you know how they don't ever have observatories, like, in the middle of a city because so much light is just getting in the way and fucking up your vision? New rule: if you're in a place that would make sense to have an observatory, you get to have bright lights. But if you are not,
Well, it
then
should just
no.
have a setting.
Yeah.
There should be city setting and there should be rural setting.
Well, just jackasses would just leave the really bright ones on. It's,
Exactly. The stupid dicks of the world are going to have their laser lights.
yeah. Should be able to be pulled over for that and castrated.
Anyway, diarrhea for a year to all the headlight manufacturers.
And mandatory castration.
Yes. Well,
I say chemical castration.
No, rusty knife.
With safety pins. Ugh.
With a dull X-Acto knife.
We'd like to thank you for joining us this week on the Church of Awesome. We have been awesome. And you're also awesome. We like you. That is all. Oh, yes. One more thing. Let he who has ears hear, and let he who has eyes see, or something. We're going to leave you now with the gift of tongues.
從團人的板凳你來到啦 OK 團人人的團將黃的跨從團的期末不到團到把路所害證明板讓老馬車能流氓口嗎速到到qua Tramitium Ricky Kong Mat Console.
How many turtles affect your day-to-day life? I get to work in the third dimension. Or have I just not been thinking fourth dimensionally?
It smells kind of assy. If asked, do you believe tigers wear pink pajamas? A person might answer that they do not, despite the fact that they may have never thought about this before.
The comments made by the hosts and other participants are the opinions of the individuals and not those of any corporate entity. All data and information provided in this program is for informational purposes only. The Church of Awesome makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information in this program and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. All information is provided on an as-is basis. If you like what you've heard in today's sermon, come visit us at churchofawesome.com or follow us on Twitter at COA Podcast.